everybody. How you doing today? My name is Kelly. I'm a pastor, a police chaplain, a marriage coach, and the author of this book, Turn It Up, How to Have the Lifelong Marriage That You Really Want. And I have got a marriage tip here for you today that I think is really going to help you. Do you know how to see your spouse's perspective? Okay, we're going to talk about taking the other person's perspective. Each of us has our own way of looking at things. Our outlook, our point of view is another way to describe it, or our worldview. Or the word I want to use today is perspective, because how you see things determines not only how you do things, but what you think about the things that you see. And each of us have a different perspective. Now, a lot of the things my wife and I see it the same way. But a lot of things we don't. And that's where we can have conflicts. And that's where you can have conflicts with your husband or your wife, is when you don't see the same thing, when you see things differently, which happens, I think, a lot. So when that happens, one of the things I've noticed in my marriage coaching and in my own life is that when I don't see things the way my wife sees them, well, what does that mean? That means she's wrong and I'm right. And I remember there was a time when I actually prayed and said, God, help me to help my wife see things my way. Help me to persuade her. And really what I was saying is taking that position of I'm right and you're wrong. Or to be more bluntly, the way it really is communicated when you take that position is, I'm correct, I'm wise, I see things correctly, and you're an idiot. Okay? Why? Because you don't see things the way I do. And so whenever we take that position of I'm right and you're wrong, we set ourselves up to debate or to create a win-lose arrangement. And when we go into debate mode, okay, what you're trying to do then is convince the other person that they're right and that you're right and they're wrong. You come up with the reasons for that. You get your debate points all lined up and you go into persuasion mode, which I found myself doing from time to time. Very, very harmful and very dangerous, because it sends that message that I'm smart and you're an idiot, like I mentioned. It also sends the message that there's no room for compromise or understanding. Now, absolutely, don't get me wrong. There are some things, very much so, that are completely right and that everybody should see them as right, and other things that are wrong. For example, it is always wrong, okay? This is not a matter of perspective. It is always wrong for you to cheat on your spouse. Don't have an extramarital affair. That is wrong. That is going to damage your relationship. The Bible calls it adultery, okay? And there's a lot of other things that are wrong. But then there are some things that are a matter of perspective. Let me give you an illustration. Sometimes I'll do this when I'm teaching live classes. I'll call a couple forward in a class, ask for a volunteer, and I'll put them facing each other. Okay, so they're like this, facing each other. And then what I'll do is hand one of them this cup. Now, I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, you can. On one side of the cup is an X. But what's on the other side? Nothing. So I line it up so that the spouse that's facing this way can see the X and the other spouse can't. And then I'll say, what do you see, sir? He says, well, I see a blue cup with an X on it. And I ask the wife, I say, ma'am, what do you see? And she goes, I see a blue cup. And I go, what? Well, you're looking at the same cup. Why can you see something that your husband can't see? Why do you, sir, see something that your wife doesn't see? Who's right? And I get them to try to debate and convince the other person. And really what it is a matter of how they're looking at it. So at the end of the illustration, I have the person who can't see the X on the blue cup step around and look over the shoulder of the other person. Now they're facing the same way. They're seeing it from the same perspective. And then they both see the X on the cup. So see how that works. There are some things in life and marriage that are a matter of perspective. So how do you see your spouse's perspective? Let me give you 7 things real quick. Number 1, you got to listen and really focus on understanding what is their position, what is their perspective. Really pay attention. Don't interrupt, by the way. Ask questions. Hey, help me see things the way you see it because I want to understand. Ask some questions when they finish if that's needed. Then repeat it back to them. Here's what I hear you say. And then you repeat it back and then maybe put some empathy into it. And it is causing you to feel this way. Okay. Ask then, is that it? Okay. That's number 4. And then if that is it, then number 5, repeat the whole thing. And now it's your turn. May I share my perspective? You may ask her or him. And now it's your turn to share your perspective. And back and forth this goes until you both understand each other's point of view or perspective. Then what are you able to do? Point number 7, you come up with a win-win agreement. Okay, well, what do we, and that's the most important word here, what do we want to do about this? How do we solve this issue or this challenge? How do we address this problem? What are we going to do? And then you can come up with a situation where it's no longer I'm right and you're wrong, but we're both right. We're just looking at it differently. By the way, yield your position. Hold it with an open hand. You know what? I think this is how it is, but I may be wrong. So let me see it from your position and be open to allow your spouse to influence you. That's a whole nother lesson. I've got other videos on it. But then come to that place of a win-win agreement. You'll be glad you did. You're going to bring your marriage closer together. You're going to walk in agreement with each other, even though you may see things from a different perspective. Here's a Bible verse before I go. Amos 3:3 says, "Can two walk together unless they have agreed to do so?" So when you're walking down the road, you're not going to have somebody next to you unless they have agreed to do that. So in the same thing in life, agree to walk together, agree that you're going to create these win-win arrangements. And then, but the first step in that is to let go of seeing and learn, let go of your position and then learn to see things from your spouse's perspective. I hope this was helpful. Let me know how I can help you. Check out my website, turnitup.coach. You can book a free discovery call with me, a clarity call, I like to call it. And what we're going to do is really give you some direction and feedback on what's happening in your marriage. And I want to give you a roadmap that you can follow to get closer and to handle some of the challenges that you may be facing right now. So book a free call. You can get a copy of my book there. And anyways, there's other resources too. So that's turnitup.coach. God bless you guys, and may God bless your marriage.